family barbecue jokes kept landing on me when my cousin called me the family charity case. He said it with his mouth full, like it was just another bite-sized comment to toss across the table with a potato salad. "Careful, don't give her the good steak," my cousin Liam joked, nudging his plate toward mine. "She's the family charity case. We got a budget." He laughed first, loud and confident, so everyone else would know when to follow. I felt the laugh hit my skin before I even heard it properly like heat. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The cheap plastic tines flexed slightly under my grip. I looked down at my plate like I could pretend I didn't understand the words. My chest did that tight, stupid thing it does when I'm embarrassed, like it's trying to fold in on itself. Across from me, my dad did a tiny smile that didn't reach his eyes. My aunt made a noise that was half laugh, half warning. Someone's kid shrieked near the trampoline. The grill hissed. The day kept going like nothing happened, and that was almost worse because it meant this was normal enough to keep chewing through. I try to play it off because that's what I always do. I force a laugh that came out too thin, like the air got stuck on the way out. "Wow," I said, aiming for light, aiming for funny, aiming for anything that wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me hurt. But my voice wobbled just a fraction, and Liam's eyes lit up the way they do when he smells blood. He leaned back in his chair and pointed his beer at me like a microphone. "I'm kidding," he said, grinning. "Relax. Don't go writing a sad poem about it." More laughs. My cousin Talia covered her mouth, eyes darting, then looked away like she hadn't. My mom, who wasn't even hosting this barbecue, reached for the napkins and started rearranging them, busying her hands like if she kept moving objects around, the conversation would rearrange itself too. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. I could feel the sweat gathering at the base of my spine, under my shirt, even though the breeze was cool. My brain started doing the math it always does in moments like this. If I react, I'm dramatic. If I stay quiet, it's an invitation. If I leave, I can't take a joke. If I stay, I swallow it, and it lives inside me for days. It was meant to be a simple family barbecue at my aunt and uncle's place. Early summer, everyone dropping by. One of those gatherings that's supposedly casual, but somehow still has unspoken rules and a hierarchy. We do a few times a year, always at their house because their backyard is big and their lawn is perfect, and my aunt likes being the center of things. The group chat had been pinging all week. Who's bringing buns? Who's bringing salad? Who's got the portable speaker? Who's picking up Nana? I said I'd bring dessert because it's easy, because I can control it, because if you show up with something sweet, people can't accuse you of being useless, even if they can still call you a charity case. I spent the morning making a tray of brownies in my tiny rental kitchen, careful not to burn them, careful not to cry into the batter when my mom called to remind me to be on time like I'm 12. The thing is, the charity case thing didn't come out of nowhere. It's been hovering around me for months, ever since I moved out of my old place and into a smaller unit, and then, briefly, back with my parents when everything went sideways. It's one of those situations that sounds simple when you explain it quickly. I got laid off, and rent went up, and it got too much. But the truth is messy, eh? The truth is I'm 31, and I had a stable job until I didn't. The truth is I thought I was doing everything right until the company restructured, and my department disappeared with an apologetic email and a final paycheck. The truth is I tried to pretend it didn't scare me. I told everyone, it's fine, I got savings. I updated my resume. I applied for jobs with a forced optimism that made my jaw ache. I told my family I was exploring options, which is a phrase that buys you about 2 weeks before they start treating you like a cautionary tale. Then my car died. Not dramatically, not in flames, just in that expensive, humiliating way where the mechanic calls and says, "Yeah, it's not worth fixing," and you feel your whole life shrink to the number in your bank account. I needed the car to get to interviews, to get to shifts, to get anywhere. I put on a credit card because that's what you do when you're trying not to drown and someone offers you a floaty that charges interest. And then the credit card bill came, and then another, and suddenly my savings didn't look like security, it looked like a countdown. I didn't tell my family the details. I made the mistake of telling them some details, enough to look honest, not enough to look weak. That's the tightrope I've been walking my whole life. share just enough to seem normal, hide enough to avoid being targeted. But families like mine can smell vulnerability through walls. Once they know you're scrambling, it becomes a storyline. It becomes entertainment. It becomes a way for people like Liam to feel superior. Liam is my older cousin by 2 years, which means he has always acted like he's 10 years older and I am permanently 14. He's the kind of person who calls himself brutally honest and then uses honesty as an excuse to be cruel. He has a nice house, a job with a title people clap for, a partner who looks like an Instagram ad, and a laugh that's always just a little too loud, like he needs the room to hear it and agree. He's also the family's unofficial court jester, which in our family means he gets to say awful things as a joke, and everyone else gets to decide whether you deserve to be offended. I'd already been bracing myself. While I walked in the backyard that afternoon, I could feel the eyes flick to me, quick and assessing. A few relatives did the sympathetic head tilt. A few did the stiff hug. My uncle asked how work was with a grin that said he already knew the answer. My aunt said, "Still keeping busy?" And I said, "Yep," because technically keeping busy includes applying for jobs and taking shifts and trying not to spiral at 3 a.m. But to them, busy only counts if it's impressive. I set the brownies on the table and tried to blend in. I talked to Nana for a while, because Nana is the only person in my family who looks at me like I'm a person and not a project. Nana asked about my apartment, and I told her about the neighbor's loud dog, and she laughed genuinely, which made my chest loosen a bit. I helped refill drinks. I offered to take Nana's plate when she was done. I did all the invisible little things that make a family gathering run smoothly, which is probably why Mom always says I'm good at helping. Helping is what you do when you're not allowed to just exist. But Liam found me anyway. Liam always does. He waited until we were all seated, me, Mom, Dad, my aunt, my uncle, Liam, Talia, a couple other cousins, like he wanted an audience. He waited until someone mentioned how expensive everything is now, and my aunt said, "It's tough out there," and my dad said, "Tell me about it." And then Liam made his little budgeting joke and slapped the charity case label on me like it was a sticky note. After he said it, people reacted the way they always do. Not with outrage, not with direct disagreement, but with that quick, uncomfortable laughter that functions like a blanket. Laughing is how my family covers things they don't want to deal with. If we laugh, we don't have to name it. If we laugh, we don't have to admit it's mean. I looked at my dad, and that was my mistake because I wanted him to do something. I wanted him to say, "Hey," just that. One syllable. A boundary. But he sighed like tired instead, the same tired sigh I've heard since I was little when someone complains about me, like my existence comes with paperwork. Liam kept going because silence is permission. "Nah, seriously," he said, wiping his mouth with a napkin. "We should start a little fund, like one of those donation tins at the counter. Help keep her afloat." He made a big show of looking around. "Anyone got spare change?" "I got a 5. Talia laughed too hard, then flinched and looked at me like, "Sorry." My aunt said, "Liam," in that not really a reprimand tone, and Liam held his hands up innocently. "What?" "We're family," he said. "We help." It would have been almost funny if it wasn't so humiliating. If it wasn't so obviously designed to remind me, in front of everyone, that I was the one slipping. My face felt hot. I could feel myself shrinking. I hated that the shrinking still happens automatically like a body reflex. I hated that I was already rehearsing apologies in my head, even though I hadn't done anything. I tried another tactic, redirect. "How's the new house going?" I asked, aiming the spotlight back at him because Liam loves the spotlight, and maybe if he got enough attention, he'd stop trying to get it by stepping on me. He grinned instantly. "Oh, it's amazing," he said. "So much space. We're thinking of putting in a pool." He said pool, slowly, like he wanted it to sparkle. Then he glanced at me. "You could come over sometime. Might be good motivation. See what happens when you know, keep your life together." My mom made a small noise, like a cough, like she wanted to pretend she didn't hear. Dad stared at his plate. Nana, from the other end of the yard, laughed at something a child said, and it felt like a different world. Motivation, I repeated, and I heard the edge in my own voice. I hated the edge because edges get you labeled, but I also hated swallowing. Liam shrugged. Just saying, he said. Some people need a kick. A kick, I said again, and my hands were shaking now under the table where nobody could see. I pressed my nails into my palm to anchor myself, a trick my therapist taught me. I could feel the skin indent. Pain keeps you in your body. Maya tried to lighten it. Everyone's had a tough year, she said quickly. Let's not. But Liam was having too much fun. Oh, come on, he said. We can joke. It's not like she's a kid. She can handle it. That sentence made my stomach flip because it was the same logic that got used on me when I was a kid. You can handle it. Translation, we're going to keep doing it. Something inside me cracked. Not in a dramatic explosion, just a quiet, exhausted split. Like I'd been holding a plate too long and my arm finally gave out. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly on the concrete. Everyone's heads snapped toward me like a flock of birds. Liam's grin widened immediately, like he'd been hoping for this. Oh, here we go, he said. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't call him names. I just said, I'm going to get some air, and walked toward the side gate because if I stayed at that table for one more second, I was going to either cry or say something that would become family legend. As I walked, I could hear Liam behind me, loud on purpose. Don't worry. We'll still love you even if you're broke. More laughter. The blanket again. My throat burned. My eyes stung. I kept walking. I ended up in the driveway beside my aunt's house, where it was quieter except for distant voices and the faint sizzle of the grill. I stood beside my car and stared at the pavement like it might give me a new plan. My hand shook. I took in a breath that felt like it got stuck halfway down. I let out slowly. The air smelled like hot concrete and sunscreen. I heard the side gate creak. Footsteps. I didn't turn around right away because I didn't want it to be Mom. I didn't want her, please don't make this awkward face. I didn't want my dad's tired sigh. I didn't want Liam's smug pity. It was Talia. She stepped out and closed the gate gently behind her. She looked uncomfortable, like her skin didn't fit right. Hey, she said. Hey, I said back, and my voice sounded weird, thin, and scraped. She shoved her hands into her pockets. He's being a jerk, she said quietly. I let out a laugh that wasn't happy. He's being Liam, I said. Talia nodded, eyes on the ground. Yeah, she said. I know. I shouldn't have laughed. No, I said, and surprised myself with how calm it came out. You shouldn't have. But you did. Everyone did. Talia flinched, and guilt flashed across her face. It's like automatic, she said. He does that thing where he sets the laugh track, I said. She nodded. Yeah, exactly. And if you don't laugh, you become the next target. Histoire de rire. That was the first honest sentence anyone had said all day. Talia swallowed. Are you okay? She asked. I hesitated because okay is a trap question in my family. If you say yes, your pain is invalid. If you say no, you're too much. But Talia wasn't asking like a trap. She was asking like she meant it. I'm tired, I said finally. I'm so tired of being the punchline. Talia's eyes shone a little. I know, she whispered, and it made my chest hurt because it meant she'd noticed more than she'd ever admitted. We stood there for a second. Then she said, Can I tell you something? Like, please don't repeat it. Not to Liam. I raised an eyebrow. Okay, I said cautiously. Talia exhaled. He's not as together as he acts, she said. He's always borrowing money. From my mom. From your mom sometimes, I think. He's got debt. Like serious debt. The house stuff. He keeps upgrading things he can't afford. And he's mad because, I don't know, because you're the only one who doesn't pretend he's perfect. Histoire de rire. My first instinct was disbelief because Liam's entire personality is built on being above everyone. My second instinct was anger. Hot, sharp anger. Because if that was true, it meant he was using me as a shield. It meant he was making me the charity case, so nobody looked too closely at his own situation. And then, immediately, a third feeling, sadness. Because that's the stupid thing about me. I always find the sad reason behind someone's cruelty, even when they don't deserve that empathy. I hate that about myself sometimes. I hate how my brain goes, oh, so he's hurting too, like that makes it okay. He's borrowing money, I said, mostly to test the words out loud. Talia nodded. Yeah, she said. And he makes jokes about you because it distracts people. It makes him feel safe, like he's not the one slipping. I leaned back against my car. The metal was hot against my shoulders. So I'm his distraction, I said. Talia's face twisted. I think so, she said softly. And it sucks. I shut my eyes for a second because I could feel tears pushing up again. Not because of Liam, not directly, but because this pattern is so old. Someone's uncomfortable with themselves, so they make me the problem. And everyone lets them because it's easier than looking at what's actually going on. Why doesn't anyone stop him? I asked, voice low. Talia gave a humorless laugh. Because he's loud, she said. And because your parents don't like conflict. And because if they stop him, they have to admit he's mean. And if they admit he's mean, they have to admit they've laughed at it for years. That sentence landed heavy. Because it was true. I opened my eyes. I'm going to leave, I said. Talia's eyes widened. Wait, she started. If you leave, they'll... I know, I cut in. They'll say I'm dramatic. They'll say I can't take a joke. They'll say I made it awkward. I swallowed hard. But if I stay, I'm agreeing to be treated like this. Talia looked like she wanted to argue, then deflated. Yeah, she whispered. Okay. The gate creaked again behind her, and this time was my dad. He stepped into the driveway like he'd been sent out, like a reluctant messenger. His face was tight, jaw working. He looked at Talia first, then at me. His eyes flicked over my face like he was checking for tears. Come back, he said, not unkindly, but not warmly either. More like he was asking me to put the lid back on the pot. I stared at him. Did you hear what he said? I asked. Dad exhaled, and the sigh started, automatic. And then he stopped himself halfway, like he caught his own habit. That small interruption made me feel something complicated in my chest. He's joking, Dad said. No, I said. He's not. Dad looked uncomfortable. He doesn't mean it. I felt my voice shake. That's not the point, I said. It lands anyway. It lands on me. And everyone laughs. Dad's eyes flashed with something. Irritation? Shame. And he rubbed the back of his neck. It's a family barbecue, he said, like that was an argument. Exactly, I said. Why am I getting humiliated at a family barbecue? Dad's mouth opened and closed. For a moment, he looked genuinely stuck. Talia, bless her, stepped forward slightly. Uncle Mark, she said quietly. It was mean. Dad's eyes flicked to her, surprised. Like he wasn't expecting anyone else to name it. Talia kept going, voice trembling but steady. He called her the family charity case. He kept going. It wasn't funny. Dad's face tightened. He looked like he wanted to make this disappear. Liam gets carried away, he muttered. And you let him, I said, and the words came out sharper than I intended. Dad flinched. I immediately felt that old guilt, the one that says don't talk to your father like that. But another part of me, a stronger part lately, said, he's the adult. He's the parent. Why is it my job to protect him from discomfort while he doesn't protect me from humiliation? Dad stared at me. What do you want me to do? He asked, and for once he sounded genuinely lost. I took a breath. My lungs felt tight. I want you to say, stop, I said. I want you to not sigh like I'm exhausting when someone is being cruel to me. I want you to act like I'm your kid. Dad's face changed. Something softened, then hardened again like he was fighting himself. He looked back, toward the gate, toward the noise of the barbecue, like the gravity of the gathering was pulling him. Then he looked at me again. I can't control him, he said quietly. No, I said, but you can control you. Silence stretched. Then Dad said low, if you leave, your mother will be upset. The words hit like a punch, because there it was. Not are you okay? I'm sorry. Just, Mom's feelings are the priority. I nodded slowly. She's always upset, I said. Dad's jaw clenched. Don't do that, he warned. Don't do what? I asked. Tell the truth. Dad looked away. His shoulders slumped. I just want a peaceful day, he muttered. I laughed, small and bitter. So do I said. But peace for you is me being quiet. Talia's eyes were wide, wet. She looked like she wanted to scoop both of us up and force us to be different people. Dad took another breath. He looked back at me, and for a second I saw something real. Guilt. Stay, he said again, softer. Just stay. We'll talk later. I stared at him. You always say later, I said. Later never comes. Dad's mouth tightened. He glanced at Talia like she was a witness he hadn't invited. Then he said, very quietly, I'm trying. I believed he believed that. I also believed it wasn't enough. I picked up my keys. I'm leaving, I said. Dad's eyes flashed. Don't be dramatic, he snapped, and the word dramatic hit me like an old bruise being pressed. I went still. See, I said softly, that's what you call me when I don't accept being humiliated. Dad's face shifted like he regretted it immediately. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Talia whispered, Uncle Mark. Dad didn't respond. He just stood there, caught between me and the barbecue. I looked at him for a long second. Tell Nana I love her, I said. Tell her I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. Dad's throat bobbed. You can say goodbye, he said, almost pleading. I can't, I said, and it was the truth. If I went back in there, I'd have to walk past Liam's grin and everyone's laughter and Mum's face that says don't make trouble. I'd either cry in front of them or I'd go numb. I didn't want to give them either. So I got in my car and drove away. On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. My throat felt raw like I'd swallowed sand. I kept replaying it. The word charity case, the laugh track, Dad's tired sigh, the way Mum rearranged napkins like that was her contribution. And the worst part was the familiar aftershock, the voice in my head that started arguing with itself. Maybe it was just a joke. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you should have stayed. Maybe you should have been tougher. And then another voice, firmer. If a joke makes you feel small, and everyone laughs at your smallness, it's not a joke. It's a reminder of where they think you belong. When I got home, my phone buzzed almost immediately. Mom, where are you? Then another. You embarrassed us. Then, your father is furious. The word furious made my stomach flip because I could already picture Dad's tight jaw, the way his anger shows up as silence. I didn't reply, not out of spite, out of self-preservation. If I replied, I'd be back in the loop where I explain myself, and they rewrite it as an excuse. 10 minutes later, Talia texted, I'm sorry. I should have said something earlier. I'm with Nana now. She keeps asking where you went. I told her you had to go, but you love her. She said, I know. That made me cry, hard and sudden, standing in my kitchen with my keys still in my hand. Because Nana always knows. Nana always sees the part people pretend isn't there. Dad called that night. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again. Then a text, pick up. My stomach nodded. I waited a few minutes, then called him back because I still have this reflex to do what he asks, even when it hurts me. He answered on the first ring. What the hell was that? He demanded, and his voice was tight and sharp. I closed my eyes. It was me leaving, I said quietly. You couldn't just ignore it? He snapped. You couldn't just let it go for one day. I felt that familiar heat rising. Ignore being called a charity case? I asked. Ignore being mocked in front of everyone. He was joking, Dad said the old line. No, I said. He was testing what he can get away with. Dad exhaled, and I heard the tired sigh. Full this time, like he'd let it out because I couldn't see him. You always make it into something, he said. And there it was, the script. I swallowed. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Dad, I said, I didn't make it into something. It already was something. You just wanted me to eat it quietly. Silence. Then, softer, your mother cried, he said. I almost laughed. Not because it's funny, but because it's predictable. Mom cries when the atmosphere isn't perfect. Mom cries when I refuse my role. Mom cries, and suddenly I'm the villain. I'm sorry, she cried. I said, carefully, but I'm not sorry I left. Dad's voice sharpened again. You humiliated her. I felt my chest tighten. Liam humiliated me, I said. Everyone laughed. You sighed. And now I'm being punished for not staying. Dad was quiet. I could hear faint TV noise in the background. I pictured him in his chair, jaw clenched, trying to decide what's easier. Admitting I'm right or doubling down. Finally, he said, Nana was upset. That hit. Of course it did. I know. I whispered. That's why I feel awful. Dad's voice softened slightly, and that softness almost made me angrier because it meant he was capable of it. Then why didn't you say goodbye? He asked. Because I couldn't walk back into that yard, I said. My throat tightened. Because I didn't trust myself not to cry. because I didn't want to give Liam the satisfaction. Dad sighed again, but it sounded different now. Less annoyed, more defeated. He went too far, he admitted, reluctant. I gripped the phone tighter. "Thank you," I said, and my voice cracked on the words because hearing him say it felt like someone finally acknowledging gravity exists. Dad continued, quieter. "I told him to knock it off." My stomach dropped. "You did, after you left," Dad said quickly, like he didn't want credit. I said it was out of line. That made something twist in me. Relief and grief at the same time. Relief that he said something at all. Grief that it happened after I'd already been hurt and had already left. Grief that this is always the pattern. I absorbed the blow. Then later someone says, "Yeah, that was a bit much," as if that fixes the bruise. I swallowed. "Did he apologize?" I asked. Dad snorted. "No, of course not." Dad hesitated, then said, awkwardly, I don't like seeing you treated like that." My throat tightened again. "Then don't let it happen," I said softly. Silence. Then Dad said, even more awkward, "I'm not good at that." I almost said, "I know." Instead, I said, "You can learn." He didn't answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. "Your mother thinks you hate her." I stare at my kitchen wall. "I don't hate her," I said. "I hate the way she protects everyone's comfort except mine." Dad exhaled. "I'll talk to her," he said, and I could tell by his tone he didn't believe he would, or that it would change anything. After he hung up, I sat on the floor with my back against the cupboard and tried to breathe normally. My whole body felt wrung out like I'd been holding a tension pose for hours. The next day, Liam sent me a message. Not an apology. A meme. A stupid screenshot of a donation tin with help written on it. Underneath, "Love you 'cause," faced with tears of joy. I stared at it for a long time. My hands went cold. My face got hot. My brain tried to do that thing where it rewrites reality to avoid pain. He's just trying to lighten it. But the truth was simpler. He wanted to see if I'd laugh. He wanted to pull me back into the script where he's funny and I'm the target and everyone gets to be comfortable. I didn't reply. Mom texted later. "We need to talk about your behavior." My stomach clenched at the word behavior. Like I'm a dog. Like my reaction is the issue, not the cruelty. I didn't reply to her either. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the energy to make my feelings palatable. A few days passed. The guilt about Nana kept chewing at me, so I drove over to her place on a quiet afternoon when I knew my parents would be at work. Nana opened the door slowly, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Where did you go?" she asked immediately, not angry, just sad. My throat tightened. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't want to upset you." Nana waved a hand like she was brushing away smoke. "I'm upset you were hurt," she said. She took my hand and squeezed it, her skin thin and warm. "He shouldn't talk to you like that." I blinked hard. Everyone laughed. I whispered. Nana's mouth tightened. "People laugh because they're cowards," she said bluntly. Then she pulled me into a hug, and I felt something in my body unclench that I hadn't even realized was locked. "I don't want to be a problem," I said into her shoulder, the words spilling out like they'd been waiting. Nana pulled back and looked right at me. "You're not a problem," she said. "You're the one they pick on, so they don't have to look at themselves." I stared at her, stunned, because it was almost exactly what Talia said. Nana patted my cheek. "Don't you ever call yourself a charity case," she said firmly. "You've helped more people in this family than they'll ever admit." I laughed, shaky. "Like who?" I asked, because part of me still needed proof, still needed the ledger. Nana's eyes softened. "Like me," she said simply. That one word made my eyes burn again. Because I have helped Nana. I've driven her to appointments. I've sat with her when she was scared. I've fixed her phone 100 times. I've listened to her stories when everyone else is too busy performing. None of that gets announced at brunch. None of that gets you a title. But it matters. Nana saying it out loud felt like someone finally handing me permission to exist without apologizing. I don't know what happens with my family now. I know Mom wants a conversation where I apologize for the atmosphere. I know Liam will keep trying to bait me because he can't stand losing his easy target. I know Dad will hover in the middle, tired, wanting peace without wanting to do the work of protecting anyone. But I also know this. I'm done letting jokes define my place at the table. If the price of being included is being humiliated, then it's not inclusion. It's a seat with a leash. Maybe next barbecue I'll go, and I'll leave the first time someone tries it. Maybe I won't go at all. Maybe I'll only see Nana separately and let the rest of them have their laugh track without me. All I know is I'm not going to answer to charity case anymore. I'm not a donation tin. I'm not a cautionary tale. I'm a person who hit a hard patch and is still standing, even if my family would rather turn that into a punchline than admit it could happen to any of them.